it to the stars. But you should receive that though. You should receive
it. I appreciate it. I'm
yes.
taking it all.
Right, to the stars. But we have Jabbar Jamison on the show who will be dropping some nuggets about entrepreneurship, financial fitness, just having your have your fortitude up, have your financial fortitude up. So we can go ahead and get it started then if you want to. But thank you for coming to our show. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and look forward to the conversation.
We're looking forward to it too. All right, well, let's get into it.
So do you want to give the people a little introduction about who you are, what makes you qualified, your background, what you're passionate about?
All good.
Start there.
Starting point. Again, Jabbar Jamison. Been a Charlottean since 2005, originally from Erie, Pennsylvania. Went to University of Pittsburgh for my undergrad in economics and business, and then did my MBA here at UNC Charlotte. So been in corporate America for 15 years before I decided to strike out on my own, and now it's been 2 years, so God's good.
Amen.
Yes, indeed. Is that good enough? Is that in-depth enough?
Yeah,
I mean,
you know.
as far as the passion, I love helping people. I just want to see people do better for themselves and make the right decisions for themselves. So I call it educating people to action, and want to make sure they have the information that they need from a financial standpoint to, again, just grow well.
Well, that's very poignant, especially us coming into the end of the year and people are gearing up about 2020 and going into that, just being financially aware and building, even if you're starting from scratch, starting somewhere.
Right.
So we, again, are glad to have you here and look forward to diving into legacy or lifestyle.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
And it is a choice, right? It is a choice, right?
It is.
So which one are you
is.
living? I think it's one specifically, again, for our community. I mean, we are some of the best consumers, but we consume the wrong things.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that with that, we're just making better choices of what to consume, what that looks like. So you can go buy Jordans all day, but why wouldn't you buy stock in Nike?
Okay,
Right.
then.
So that's the kind of, I guess, information I'm trying to give out to clients and prospects and just anybody who's willing to listen, right? Let's start having a different conversation, framing the wealth conversation as opposed to looking rich.
Well, and it's a mental shift then, because I believe that prevalent in our community, at least, you wear your wealth to show it instead of building it quietly and letting a portfolio speak to it.
That's exactly right. And again, The Millionaire Next Door, right? Great book. But they talk about you're living next door to millionaires. They just drive a Toyota Camry, right? And you would never know. On the other end, you see somebody in that Lexus, which is just an upgrade of a Toyota, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. So it's just changing mentality again, making sure that we're purchasing things that actually appreciate a value as opposed to lose value. That car loses value right off the lot. So why are you putting so much stock and so much money into them? I can't answer that. Can you answer that?
Well, no, but I felt like you can answer a lot of shit. I felt it coming. So I said, okay, here go my segue. Here go my entry point. And finding out some shit, because right now you're doing like a whole paradigm shift. You're having people think about wealth differently. And it almost is synonymous with being having a pocket protector, being a math nerd, is having people kind of switch their brains, but switching it for themselves, for the benefit and betterment of themselves.
Right.
So I'm really interested to know what made you want to not just keep trekking away in corporate America, but to actually give this gift to other people, especially those in the African American community.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. That's a good point. I had a great corporate career, and I owe everything to my corporate career. They paid me to practice, right? It's blossom where you're planted, and I don't think people really realize that. So setting up for your second career, your next thing, whether you work 35 years in a corporate position and retire, it's still a second act.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really, again, I was doing well, but intrinsically the feeling wasn't there. I was being financially rewarded, and previously to be a client of mine you had to have at least $500,000 of investable assets. And that's not just your common person. So you open the door to the conversation I was having at that level to everyone. It's just meeting people where they're at. I think you mentioned it early on in the conversation. Where are you at? Where do you want to go? Let's get there together. And so it's just, to your point, reframing the mindset of the people that we come in contact with to really start to grow wealth, especially in our community. I take on all clients and have all kinds of different clients, but we're just missing the trust factor and the communication factor, which I'll hit on a little bit later on in the presentation. But it's really rebuilding that trust in our community to have faith and confidence to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And so that's where I really wanted to get back to, just making sure that I don't care who you are, as long as you're a good person and you're willing to try and have a conversation, we can sit down and grow wealth together.
And I don't know why that seems to be like a sore spot for people, almost where you're embarrassed to not know about financial, I guess, education, literacy for yourself. Like, why are we so ashamed to have that conversation, to talk about that? I think that because it's so rudimentary, people are kind of expected to be like, oh, you should know how to save some money.
Right.
That's mindless behavior, right? You can save money easily. But just the fact that you're like, no, it's maybe not so easy without like some clear-cut instructions.
Right.
And so I'm interested also to know how you indoctrinate people to understand and not feel embarrassed that you're just going to follow these clear-cut instructions to your financial freedom and fortitude.
And I think it's getting people comfortable with who you are right off the bat, right? We're not talking about money as soon as I meet you. We don't need to talk about that. We need to talk about who you are. That's really going to frame the conversation about how you get to where you're going, right? It's not about so much what you have. It's does your personality lend to just saving a bunch of money, or do you need baby steps to get there? And so having just a general dialogue about who you are, where you're from, what do you like to do? Those are just kind of key points that gets me in the mindset of who I'm dealing with on the other side of the table. It doesn't have to be an intrusive conversation. I think people find it as an intrusive conversation because they are embarrassed, right? I can remember going into to back in the day, we weren't allowed to sit at the grown-ups table, right, to talk about these important conversations. But they should have been taught to us. And we just didn't like talking about money because I don't think we had a lot of money to talk about. So we came from a scarcity standpoint as opposed to, hey, yes, you're going to get something when you grow up. So I want to talk to you so you'll be ready for this.
Right.
No, we were told to go get an education so you can actually start creating something. And again, it's just a different mindset in households. So now we're just, again, changing dynamics of the conversation. Now that we have African American buying power, this year is about $1.2 trillion, right?
Wow.
So we have spending power here in the United States. It's just that we haven't been educated about what to buy. And so you put people at ease just in who you are. But if I come across rigid, man, what you got in that account?
What you been doing for the last 15 years
what
with
you
your
got
money?
in that account? It comes out a little differently.
Yes.
Like I'm like, yo, who
Yes.
are you to be asking me this? And I don't even know your first name yet. I don't remember it. I can't pronounce it. Right? It's Jabbar. Right? So it just changes. It changes the dynamic of the situation and the conversation by putting people at ease. Like, no, this isn't to get into your business. It's just to better you. And so
That was perfect.
Good. Good.
I like that.
I like it too.
Good. Good.
So
good,
let's
good.
talk about branding.
Branding. When people think about an advisor, they think about, I have this money to invest, right? And that's what I really call your passive portfolio, right? That's what you've gone to work, you made it, and now here it is. I want to give this to you. I want you to make sure that, one, it's there when I need it, but two, it continues to grow. So passively, what can I do from a standpoint of making my money work for me, protecting myself, and making sure that there's some kind of plan to get to the next generation, right? But your active portfolio is what you do every day, right? And people don't really realize that you're your greatest asset. So why aren't you, one, protecting that asset, but then two, making sure that you're pouring into that asset? If you passed away yesterday, right, and there wasn't something protecting you, you wouldn't have anything to give to the next generation, right? And people don't think like that. So when you brand yourself, it's important to, one, understand who you are and what you have to protect and what your value is to other people, but then two, really start to expand upon that and making sure it's protected, right? I can't just go in and use Wendy's name out there, right? If I use their name, logo, and their likeness, then that's an infringement, right? We should feel the same way. We have value as individuals and people. We don't value ourselves. The world definitely doesn't value us, and so that just lays to the I guess the barrier that you have to overcome when you start these discussions. Making sure that you realize that on the other side of the table you have value. You're worth something. Let's expand upon that value and that brand and just maximize it. So I think that's really where you get at when you talk about branding. And again, you want to do as much as you can to put yourself out there. I was naive enough to early on when I started 2.5 years ago. I just wanted to be behind the scenes, and you can't do that. People buy who you are, right? At the end of the day, as an advisor, I really do position a commodity, meaning that you can go down the street and get that anywhere. Is making sure that you understand what you have, that you're comfortable with what you have, and really getting to know me as the advisor to trust I'm going to help you make the best decisions. And that's where the value comes in. So you have to be in the community. They have to know you. It's almost like a politician, really, right? You have to be out there to position yourself that people just don't see you on a TV or in a different light. Now, I'm an everyday person. I'm coming to you because I want to help you, but don't think of me as any different. So your brand has to be protected and grown, and we just don't look at ourselves enough as a brand. But if you start to look at yourself as a brand, you make different decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, what kind of vehicles can you utilize to bring that to fruition?
Well, it really starts with, again, what our parents told us early on. Go get that education, right? That's going to put you in a position to grow that brand automatically. What the education does to teach you is how to overcome failure, how to go through things and make sure that you pick yourself back up. That's called experience, and that's called life. So you have to have a little bit of both. So when you look at that question, is just saying, hey, how can I maximize my brand? Well, let it be seen. Let it be seen, and let people actually know who you are. And you can tell by the feedback that you get from people, your position. And that's what we're trying to get at. Once you know where you're at, you can start to grow from there. So you start there. You start at that 9-to-5 job, and you grow reputation. And then you grow the reputation inside of the company. And then you go to the outside of the company, and it continues to grow and continue to grow. And then you have something you're like, man, people really respond and react to me.
Right.
I want to make sure I capitalize off that. How can I capitalize that? There's a lot of connectors out there. People are well connected.
A lot of connectors.
But they never monetize that connection,
that
right?
Is so true.
And so you really want to make sure that, hey, now that I know that people value me and I have this network of people, how can I monetize that? How can I do something different with that? How can I cash in on that?
I'm intrigued.
Yes.
Because I know I'm a connector. I'm just talking about Malcolm Gladwell the other day. Like, yo, I know that person is amazing. I'm a connector. Because, you always know somebody who can put you in touch with somebody else. And just the connections that you have. Like you said, that is worth something, because you wouldn't be able to get to this role without me. What can I do? And just the fact that you were even depositing knowledge into people that they're worth something.
Right.
I think that's worth, no pun intended, that's worth more than any type of financial aptitude, just that you start with that.
Right.
Because when has any of, I know that there's at least one out of the bunch who's never heard this before, that they're worth something, that you are a brand. We don't even think of ourselves in those types of terms. So you're already, turning somebody around as soon as they get to you. So I appreciate the sincerity in your delivery about what you're saying. And it also helps, I think, to have that fidelity and also that trust in you if I'm electing to choose you as my private advisor to the stars. I swear I'm gonna yo, you should put that shit on some business cards. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Just take it all. Yeah. That's.
I'm
But you can be
you.
a star too. Let me tell you how.
Yo,
Just
really?
win. Yeah. We good.
Do that. So she brought up your portfolio, active versus passive portfolio. Can we know the difference in active versus passive portfolio?
Well, yeah, that's again the active and the passive part. It's again, I just want people to realize that you go to work every day to make this money, right? So that's what you're going to do actively. what you hire an advisor for is what you kind of do on a just say, hey, again, I've made it. Please help me grow that. Please help me protect that. Please let me save for my kids' education. Please let me look out for retirement. I want to actually buy and purchase a house, right? How can I put this money that, again, it's going to start working for me? So the active part is what you do on a daily basis. And the passive part is actually what you give to somebody to grow and to hopefully make come to fruition one of your dreams or goals or objectives. So that's just the difference of what I say. There's a more technical definition if you're talking about actual investing as active and passive, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking really about who you are as a person. And like I said, I think we need to start there before we start talking about someone's money, who they are, and what value they bring.
Understood.
So,
Okay.
yep. The other thing that I don't think we do enough too of is just the partnerships. We have to start coming together more. We try to do too many things on an individual basis. So I know me early on in my transition from corporate America, you know, it's I wanted to make sure that I partnered with the right people. I wanted to make sure that I know I can't do it on my own. So to reach the people that I need to reach, I wanted to make sure that I have competent partners around me. So finding people that you're equally yoked with, finding people that you jive with, and can really elevate your game and make you want to do better. I think that's the key of your actual branding. I want to make sure that it's just for the betterment of everyone around me that we come together, build a solid foundation, and continue to grow that foundation.
Okay.
So, again, I don't think we do it enough. I think we sometimes let little differences come in between us. We got to cut that out, y'all. We got too much work to do.
We do. We
So
do.
we got to make sure that we just focus on what we need to focus on and make sure that it's a biblical term, but I'm going to go
Go
there.
ahead, drop it. You know, that's how you get people. They don't boo people who sing gospel songs at the Apollo.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
You bring them
Lean
in, huh? You
right,
bring them on in, huh? But
Yes.
it's iron sharpens iron, right?
Oh, yeah. I say it all the time.
But sparks are going to fly, right? When you have that reaction, you're going to have some sparks. So let that happen and let that progress, but let that actual tension grow to something more beautiful. And again, I think, now actually I know we give up too easily on one another. And you see it all the time in sports and people jumping from team to team. Build something, grow something. It's the Steph Curry conversation versus the LeBron conversation, right? He stayed at Golden State and built something. That's why he's seen it in a different light. Not right, not wrong. It's just indifferent. But people, it's just a respect thing. I can be here and I can grow this and I can make sure that I'm partnering with the right people. And boom, our tension has led to just a value that we couldn't have noticed or gone through otherwise. So that's what I like. I like the fact that if you can come together and partner, I think you just have greater outcomes, and we need to do it more.
Yeah. Totally. Especially within our community.
Yes. We petty, y'all.
Yes, super petty.
We petty. We need to get over all that and make sure that again, it's staggering. And I'll probably mention this later on too, but from a wealth standpoint, in 35 years, the African American community is going to have zero net worth. And
Zero.
Wow.
I'm gonna just talk a little bit about it in a different brand, but I mean, you're not going to crack that code and have an impact on that doing anything by yourself.
Right.
We need to start coming together and making sure that, hey, one, the quality has to be good. I'm not partnering with you just to partner with you because you're my boy, you're my homegirl. I'm not doing that. I'm doing it because we have a collective energy into doing something better and bigger. And so let's get together. Let's work hard. It's going to be frustrating. We're going to have some losses, but we're going to have more wins.
I heard that.
So.
You better drop that knowledge. Yo, I felt that in my spirit. I felt that in my spirit. For real.
Yeah.
But we can talk about community involvement. I know that you just did touch on that and how we need to be, more engaged with one another, right?
Yeah.
But as far as the outreach, what about outreach though? Because it's one thing to, kind of have that idea that we need to come together, but how do we do that? What's your idea of how we accomplish that? From a financial
standpoint, but again, it's the value that we bring as individuals, right? So we can't just go in and say, hey, we made it, we arrived, we are a executive in this organization now, want to give back by being part of this board. That's good, but your time there in the community while you're growing, you get to see people and meet people and have an opportunity to pick them up, right? Not that I'm at this high position, I can donate $10,000. but I'm going to pour into you from my knowledge and make sure that you, one, have a confidence instilled in you now, but also two, now that you see me in a suit, right? Because we don't see people in suits, dressed nice. Well, what do you do? Well, I'm a wealth advisor. You know, well, what's that? What? Just having a conversation and being present in the community, as opposed to actually always wanting to just have this immediate impact. Sometimes our presence is enough in the community. And you see too many people behind the scenes not willing to give that presence because they don't think they've made it or they have any value. Well, if I see someone doing something different and they're successful, that's value enough for me because I don't know anything else as a kid, right? As a young person, even as an adult sometimes. I think that I can only do well in this one particular corporate organization setting, and what else is out there for me? Well, if you don't come out and start having these dialogues, thank you guys for inviting me out. And just presenting yourself in a manner that's opening and welcoming. And if I do have an executive behind my name, is the common person going to feel comfortable just coming up, saying, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? But now if I come as Jabbar Jamison and just where I'm at, hey, can I talk to you? Yeah, it's not as intimidating. People ask questions. So it's just being present in the community. And I think we need more of that. Yes, I want to be successful on an individual basis, but I'm not going to do that without giving my time back to community.
Yeah.
So just getting involved where you're at.
Well, I have to say, I think that wasn't last year when you launched 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
When you did the event to just kind of raise awareness around you starting your own practice and asking for support and educating just our network immediately, and then asking, do you know anyone else outside of this circle that could benefit from conversations like that? I have to say that I found value in that gathering of the minds, and it was amazing how, even though we set out to support you, once we came together collectively, then other people started talking about what they were working on and what they had going on and who they knew and how to connect. And it took on synergy and a life of its own, and so much came from that. So I think even little gatherings like that, it doesn't have to be these big elaborate events. It can be something small, but taking action.
And like, you're saying, closed mouth don't get fed. You start asking questions, or whatever it is, just building a network, because that's the thing too. We have a lot of pride, and it goes back into just our financial intelligence. Same thing. Pride, that's